Welcome to another episode of Baker Dave Presents. Once again, we're here in the Morgan Hall Kitchens at Temple University, and we have a special guest, Stephanie Ives. She's the Dean of Students, and she has brought with her recipe for grain-free chocolate chip cookies coming right up. Welcome, Stephanie Ives. How you doing?
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess, Baker Dave. Good to see you.
So, you work at the university.
Yes.
What exactly do you do?
For the last 6.5 years, I've been at Temple University. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and the Dean of Students.
Well, the Dean of Students sounds way more official than the other long one.
It's probably what the students connect to the most when they assume that I'm the disciplinarian.
I was going to
for the
say, do
university.
a lot of people get in trouble?
Some do. Most do
This is a
not.
pretty good campus. I mean, I
It
honestly
is.
have not seen a lot of things go wrong here as far
They're
as
very good students here.
even fraternities and stuff. They seem like they're pretty much in
Yeah.
check. That's
Well,
because of you, right? I mean,
Absolutely. I'll take credit for all of that.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So what did you bring us today?
Today's recipe is called grain-free chocolate chip cookies.
Yum.
I know.
Grain-free. So no flour,
Trust me,
right?
they do. They're delicious. They taste delicious.
All
My
right.
brother-in-law requests them.
So paleo.
They
like.
are. They're sort of paleo. If you take paleo to the next level, because I really don't think the caveman was baking chocolate chip cookies, but
They might be.
they could over their campfire. But if you take the tenets
Chocolate's pretty
of it,
ancient. I mean, it's not
true.
like it didn't exist.
Exactly, right. If you
maybe
take
in some
the
parts of the
basic
world.
tenets of paleo cooking, which is kind of going back to your roots, using whole foods and things that are not processed, you'll find that a lot of these ingredients here are very natural. We have grass-fed butter, we have honey, we have chocolate chips, we have
Very grass-fed chocolate chips.
right, exactly.
I mean, well, only the best for you.
Thank you very much. We have almond flour and some coconut flour, so those ingredients at least are.
Well, why
fine.
are they so anti-flour? Like, I don't understand what they've got against gluten. I
So
feel like
this-
there's nothing wrong with it. It's just protein.
So this is a good question when we talk about baking around allergies and how
Right.
many people have reactions to grains. Grains can be very inflammatory, and so a lot
Right.
of people try to limit or eliminate the amount of
I have trouble with that
grains.
since I'm a baker.
I know, but I'm showing you, demonstrating
and I
that
appreciate
you can
that.
still bake without grains.
I have some relatives that have celiac,
Yes.
so I can understand where it's an issue.
Right.
But it seems to be mostly just with wheat flour. Like, that's the main.
Yeah, and anything with gluten in it. Right. So we're
What
gonna,
about, how do you feel about ancient grains? Let's get
well,
crazy on this.
yeah, I know, and they
Like-
talk a lot about sprouting grains.
Yeah,
as
how do you
well.
feel about that? Are
So,
you
well,
with that or
if
not?
you can tolerate it, if it works for you,
But not
certainly
for,
go
as far
ahead.
as your paleo. Is
Yeah.
that like, you're not strict paleo?
I'm not strict paleo.
Oh,
no.
okay. You
But
still
I
have
like
a pizza
to.
every once in a while?
Every once in a while, if it's worth it. New Year's Eve, I did, definitely. But I think one of the things we could think about whenever we're cooking is how nutrient dense is your food. And one of the other things that we can demonstrate here in cooking is that even though these are chocolate chip cookies, there are still nutrients
What
in these
nutrients do we
cookies.
have in these cookies?
Well, in grass-fed butter, for example, grass-fed butter is a great source of vitamin K2 and vitamin A.
Why is that different than regular butter?
Regular butter that comes from conventionally raised cows has much fewer nutrients.
You know why?
Just because of what they eat as their source
What do
of
they
food.
eat?
Grains.
They eat corn.
They eat corn, which is a grain.
Mostly they eat
Yep,
corn.
yep,
And corn
exactly.
is not necessarily
Exactly.
great for us at all.
Exactly.
Mostly it's sugar.
Right, right. So
And
when
I don't
we-
think they're actually supposed to eat corn. That's the
no,
real
they're
problem.
not, exactly. So eating grass-fed beef is better for you, more nutrient dense for you, and dairy products that come from grass-fed cows.
One of the things I read this, that I believe everything on the internet, right? I read it on the internet. It must be true, right? But I was looking on the internet and I read about the difference with the grass-fed, trying to figure this kind of stuff out, right?
Good.
And it seemed to me that a lot of people have problems with antibiotics with beef
Sure.
in our
Yeah.
country, but the only reason they give them the antibiotics is because they're feeding them corn, and their
Right.
bodies aren't supposed to
Right.
process corn.
Right. So look at that.
So they're
cycle
getting
there.
sick,
Right.
and then we're trying to make up for the
Treating the
fact that they're
sickness.
getting sick instead
Right.
of feeding them the food they're actually supposed to eat.
Exactly.
And then we
Yeah.
go super government conspiracy and start talking about, how the government makes us all eat corn and subsidies,
And
but
who
we're not going to
makes
do
money
that.
off that?
We're
Right,
not going to
that-
do
no,
that.
today
This
we're
is
just
not
gonna
government
make
conspiracy
some
show. This
happy
is Baker
chocolate
Dave
chip
Presents.
cookies.
Right.
Good.
So grass-fed butter, and then
Yes.
we have almond flour and
Yes.
coconut flour. I found that
Yes.
interesting because there wasn't a lot of coconut flour.
No,
was that
very
just
little.
for the nutritional value?
No, it helps a little bit with the structure of the cookies, but coconut flour is a source of nutrition. Almond flour in particular, because it's just ground almonds. You told me earlier that you
Actually,
ground your
I
own
did,
almonds.
and I did the same thing with coconut. I'm
It's
not going to lie.
wonderful.
I made my
That's
own
fantastic.
almond flour.
So then these minimally processed
Very minimal.
flours have many more nutrients that you're going to find in even a store-bought brand that's been minimally processed.
Right.
So good for you. But you find a lot of vitamin E in almond flour because just like almonds,
So-
lots of vitamin E.
Just a quick tip, if you ever do want to ground your own flour, I actually did it because I didn't have the flour here.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go to the store. And I was like, I got almonds, but I don't have the flour. So what you do is you'll want to toast your almonds. That's why it's a little darker than you said you're used to getting.
Right.
Because
Yes.
when you grind them at home, you want as little moisture as possible because otherwise you're going to turn it into almond butter. You want some of that oil and moisture to come out of it before you actually ground it.
Yep.
And then I just used, you know, the thing that you make drinks in. What's that thing?
A blender.
A blender,
Okay.
right?
Did you use a Vitamix or?
I
other
did
product?
actually use a
Good for
Vitamix,
you.
but I wasn't going to say a name
Okay,
brand.
name brand.
But anyways,
Product club.
I used a blender, and you put a little, you only like a handful in at a time. You can't do
Yes.
it all, otherwise it gets
Clog
too
it all
hot
up.
and it clogs up. And you hit it for like 10, 15 seconds, and then dump it out and do the next batch.
Yep.
And so it works out great. And same
Great.
thing with the coconut.
Good for
But
you.
you just want to do that very quickly.
Yeah.
If you do it too long, it turns into butter.
But you know, almond butter is fantastic.
It
as
is
well.
fantastic, but it's not what you asked for
No,
this
that's
recipe.
true. That's
so I
not
was
an
not going to make
ingredient.
almond butter this time. I was making almond flour.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Grass-fed, I mean,
Not grass-fed almonds. No.
no. Well, they have almond milk, so if you can have,
Yes.
why couldn't you?
But almond milk also
I
comes
know,
from the
I'm joking.
pressing of the almonds, not from an almond cow or something.
That's right. So there's nothing to milk in an almond. So, and then we have our honey.
Yes.
Special honey.
We do. Well, this
It's not.
is this special honey?
Well,
No.
it's just,
It
I
is-
got to be honest, I didn't go out and get special organic honey for you. I only have regular honey.
That's okay because I brought you a gift.
And I appreciate that.
This
so
is
what
honey
is this?
from our beehives. My husband and I have beehives.
You have your own beehive.
We do.
Like do you have the whole outfit?
I
You should have
do.
came here in the outfit.
I
How cool would that
should
have been?
Maybe I'll give you a photograph and you can slip that in.
So you have.
We do. We have our own
have
beehives.
your own bees.
Yes, there are bees
You
in
get
our
stung?
backyard. Yeah, sure, you get stung.
Yeah,
every
see,
once
that's
in a
why I
while.
don't have a beehive.
But you take precautions. You try to make sure that you're not.
Got the cool
angering
smoker?
bee. We do have a smoker. Yes. Yeah.
That would be
everything.
fun just for that, right?
Yeah, actually.
And you get this is your own.
This is
honey.
our own honey.
So what is it clover? Like what's their source of?
We just consider it wildflower honey
Wildflower?
because there are
You
no
have no idea.
specific trees that we live around that it would be sort of concentrated to one type of honey.
So they
but
just
there are many
they fly
kinds.
around and then they come
Yep.
back
To many flowers, millions
and they
of
know where to
flowers.
come back to.
They do. They know where their hive is. Yeah. There's a whole
pretty cool.
communication system that
Do you ever
they
rent
use.
yours out? Don't they do that?
We do. We,
Or
yes.
no, for like
No,
farmers
it's
because
true.
they need to with the
Yes.
pollination, right?
That's right. There are.
You don't do that, though?
We don't, but there are bees that go on the road trip.
And yours aren't
Yeah.
sick yet, and there's some bad bee
No.
disease
We've
thing
been-
that's killing bees.
Yeah, the colony collapse disorder.
See, I knew it was
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
I'm not very good with
Our
the actual
hive so
names.
far, we opened it up. I think last week we had a nice.
Do you
one
sell
in.
honey or is it just for you?
We don't sell it. We give lots of it away.
Like I'm getting some. I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm not using it for these cookies. We're gonna use the regular honey, so I can have this for my toast
That'll
at
work.
home.
That'll work. But there is a lot of good stuff in local honey. If you're going to use your own honey,
Mm-hmm.
you want to try to get something from within about 10 miles of where you're at because it'll have lots of the local pollens in it. And so there is a belief that if you ingest honey from your local area, it can help with allergies. So
I guess that
this-
makes sense.
Yeah. So this is from
Can't really prove
within
that
10
wrong.
miles of the Temple campus.
There you go.
And so
You live within 10 miles?
I live
Are you like in
just,
the city?
just
like,
about on the cusp.
you have an
Just
actual
about-
yard, I hope, with
We
the bees.
do.
You don't
we
just
do.
have it like on the roof of
Actual
an apartment or
yard.
something.
No, but you could do that.
You
There's
could.
a lot of city
I'm sure.
beekeepers.
But where would they go? Like, there's not a lot of
They still
things
can
to get.
pollinate, sure, trees and flowers and stuff like
Okay.
that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is just wildflower honey.
I noticed, like, no, I don't mean to stick with the honey thing, but it's fascinating to me.
It is. I love that.
I've tried other honeys. Like, if you go to the grocery store, you see, like, piles of honey
Yes.
from, like, all over the place. Have you tried, like, how many other honeys have you tried from,
Many.
like, you're talking about keeping it local and all this and that, and it's
Yeah.
great. However, have you ever tried, like, there's some African honeys, they're almost black,
Yes.
and they're very peppery tasting. They taste completely different.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what flower
right.
the bees go
Are
to.
Going to most frequently.
Right?
Correct. Yes.
So, like, a wildflower is just, you have no idea, and it's
Yeah.
just whatever.
When we travel, we try to pick up honey from wherever we're at. So we honeymooned in Hawaii. We picked up Hawaiian honey. We often,
I do that with beer, but that's probably not as impressive.
I think that's a great strategy as well, though.
Oh, okay.
But
do
you
enjoy
can
local
pick up
brew.
honey from wherever you're at. Find a local beekeeper. If you're interested,
There's like an online beekeepers association or something. How do
there
you,
are.
how do you find
There's
local
the
beekeepers?
Philadelphia County Beekeepers.
Look at you.
There's the Montgomery County Beekeepers. Yeah, but if you go to a
You got like
local
a whole
farmers
group.
market, you'll often find somebody who's selling
Okay.
their own honey. And so I do encourage you to buy local honey from a farmer's market.
It really makes a difference. It tastes totally different
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
average clover honey.
Yeah.
Clover honey is what most you get in America for the most part. I mean,
Right.
if you're just getting honey, it's clover honey.
And people who think that they don't like the taste of honey often are mistaken because
They haven't tried
usually-
other honeys.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
they're totally
usually eating
different.
store-bought honey that is cut with other things. So
Sometimes they do cut it
find
with like a
a
corn
good
syrup.
source,
Again
yeah.
with the corn. Again with the
if
corn.
you have a sore throat, honey is great for coating
Honey
your sore
is,
throat.
it's not even just that. It actually has
Bacterial
antibacterial
properties,
That's why you
exactly.
can't give honey
Yeah.
to infants.
Yeah, and that's why they put honey on wounds.
I've never seen anybody put a honey on a
Yeah.
wound,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
I'm gonna try it next time I get
Yeah.
cut.
Okay.
I don't. I think it'll be
Great.
sticky. All your hairs will get caught in it.
Right.
And then we
So
have,
then we have.
that's our salt and our
okay.
baking soda,
Uh-huh.
and that's our eggs. And you will be happy to know our eggs are cage free here.
Okay.
All over
good.
campus, all of our eggs are cage free.
Good.
They always have.
I
Like, they've
am
been that way for
very
a long
happy
time.
to hear that.
Even we get our whole eggs, which this was actually a mix. It was a cage free mix.
Okay.
Because that's what I had today. But our
Okay.
whole eggs that we have, they're here we use brown eggs, and they're cage free as well.
Okay.
Like that's so the eggs are free to roam. They can roll around the pasture before they pick them up.
They
You
can roll around.
No
Good.
cage is keeping those eggs back. You know what I'm saying?
Good. Again, I do recommend that if you have access to a farmer's market or anywhere where they do sell eggs from their own chicken coops, go ahead and try those eggs.
You'll notice if you get fresh eggs or local eggs
they
or
look
whatever,
very different than
they're
stock.
way darker.
Yes,
The yolks
the
are
yolks.
almost orange.
Orange, yes,
Right.
they'll
Whereas
stand
if
up
you
nice
get
and high.
exactly, whereas
Yeah.
if you get the more processed eggs,
Yep.
they're a lot paler. It's because of the nutrition that they get.
Right.
I mean, they're again
Yeah.
supposed to eat certain things, and
Yep.
we feed them whatever we
Eggs
can
are a
get them
great
to eat.
source of choline, super nutritious, lots of protein in eggs. One of my favorite foods. I eat 2 a day, every day.
Wow.
Yep.
How much cholesterol is that? Your
Cholesterol's fantastic.
okay? Okay, I'm just checking because I know
Cholesterol's
that's
fantastic.
an issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we get started on
Okay,
these awesome
let's do
cookies?
this. Yeah.
One thing I will notice, that I will say, the one thing I love about these cookies, as well as like vegan cookies I make,
Mm-hmm.
and since there's not a solid fat, the butter is actually melted.
Yes.
It's very easy to mix.
Yeah.
You don't really need a KitchenAid. You don't
Right.
need a actual mixer.
A
You can do
processor.
pretty much everything by hand, and literally, you just throw everything in, right?
Yep.
It's not like
Yep.
a specific order, is it?
Nope,
All right,
not
we'll
really.
start doing it.
Okay.
Show me what's up.
Let's see. I do start with this.
We got
Just
2 cups of almond flour.
almond flour,
Freshly ground
and
almond flour.
coconut flour.
And freshly ground 3 tablespoons of coconut
Yeah.
flour.
Yeah, let's put that in there.
Gives it that beautiful toasted dark color there.
Yeah, we'll just combine that a little bit. Now, I also make this recipe frequently using coconut oil rather than using grass-fed butter, but you can use either. If you use coconut oil, that being such a saturated fat, 92% saturated fat, will often be solid at room temperature.
Okay.
And so you may have to melt that
There's really no
either
sugar in this, is there?
the honey.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Duh. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did I forget an ingredient? I was starting to panic for a second, and then I forgot the honey.
Yeah.
That's your sugar. That makes
So
sense.
we can put the honey in.
Can we just put all of
You
that?
want, yeah,
Let's get this in there too, because that way it's,
yeah.
it gets mixed in.
That's right. All of you being an expert baker,
Well, I like to put
know
the
that you
baking.
put the wet stuff together and the dry stuff together, right?
No, I don't do that. I
No?
put it all at once.
Okay.
But my point was, I usually put the baking soda, the leavener, whatever the leavener is, I put that in the beginning because that way it gets more evenly distributed.
Right.
Sometimes they have you creaming the eggs and
Yeah.
butter and all that stuff, and then
Yeah.
you add it later, and I don't appreciate that. I like it
Yeah.
to get very well mixed in.
Thank you.
You got the spoon
Yeah, I
thing,
do.
so you
The
can kind of
spatula,
get a
which
little more out.
shouldn't have dipped, but there we go.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's going all in the same
Mix
place,
that
isn't it?
just a little
I
bit
think you have
while
some
we
eggs
do
here.
this. Yep. I'm gonna put that in. I was just gonna combine this a little bit.
And then we have some chocolate chips.
Yes,
Are you ready
those
for
go in
that?
last. Those go in last. Now,
But now is last.
I'm not done here yet.
Oh, my bad. Look at that lump. Do you see that lump there?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
thank goodness.
So we were talking a little bit though about coconut oil, using coconut oil.
That's like a
And
big thing now, right?
It
Like
is
the whole
a big
coconut
thing.
oil thing.
It's terrific. I love coconut oil. I try to use it when
What
I
is
cook
it
my
that- I'm
eggs
trying to
if
remember
I'm
what
not
it-
using grass-fed butter. But one of the things about coconut oil is that when you eat the cookies, they do have a slight flavor of coconut, and it is
Do they?
really very pleasant. So
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Before we get too much further. Is that the consistency it usually is?
No, this
It's
is a
usually
little
thicker?
runnier. Than
Okay, see,
normal.
and
so
I
would you like to
was
put
afraid that
some-
was going to be the
All right,
case.
so you got some more almond flour.
So what I did is I brought a little extra almond flour
Good.
because I don't know when you grind your own almond flour if it's going to set up right.
Yeah,
Like my grind might be a little coarser, so then
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to take the moisture the same.
right.
So if we can add a little bit in there and see if that looks a little better. So if you're at home and it looks runny, you want to add a little something to it.
Yep,
I wonder how much humidity plays a factor in it. If it's
very possibly. One of the things I love about
The honey
making
itself might be
cookies-
wetter.
Could be, yeah. Best part about making cookies is that because you portion out the cookies,
does that look more like it should be?
it does.
I didn't mean to interrupt. My apologies. Go ahead.
You can just make like 4 or 6 and see how it works. And if it's working well, just put 4 or 6 on your.
That's what I
on your
figured. We'd
platter.
only put 4 in there. and
Make a
see
couple,
how it looks.
see how it looks, and if it's not setting up the right way,
So
change
this
your
is-
recipe.
This is a good consistency. It's kind of gloopy, but that's good. I mean, you want it to be. That
Is
doesn't
an
sound nearly as
official
that's.
baking term.
This is officially gloopy consistency for those that are paying attention. Yeah, it's it's kind of has. You want to be able to scoop it.
You can,
You want it
yeah.
to
You
look
can-
like something when you put it on the pan, not
Yeah.
just run everywhere.
Right. You could even add a little bit more
You
if
want
you
more?
wanted it
I
to
got
set.
more.
Yeah, put a little bit more if you
You
want
tell
to
me,
set
whatever
it
you
a little-
want.
Right,
It's your
that's,
show.
That's plenty. If you want to set it up a little bit more, maybe it won't spread out as much on the
Okay.
baking sheet. And I see that you've got some parchment paper here, which is
Of
good.
course I do.
Also
Grass-fed
that.
parchment paper.
Locally grown from your farmer's
Right,
market.
exactly. The best kind. We actually harvested that from a birch tree just down the road. This morning I got it
Using
myself. Yeah.
sustainable practices.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly.
I love it. Baker
Excellent.
Dave, you're the best. Now, that is a lot of chocolate chips, but I think that that's fantastic. So I'm very happy with that.
Oh,
now.
okay.
The more chocolate chips in a recipe,
more better?
The more better.
That's what I always say. The more chocolate, the more better.
Now, part of what we were talking about before is about allergen cookie and how.
So how
some
would we change
people-
this for other allergies?
Right, exactly. So
Because
I was,
let's say I'm allergic to nuts.
To
I'm not.
nuts,
But let's
right.
just say I am. That's
Sure.
all
Yeah.
we have. And this
Yeah.
is an almond cookie, really.
Right.
At this point.
Yes, it would be harder. It would be harder. But I have made, and I'm not sure if you've made this or not, but pumpkin cookies using pumpkins and eggs and a little bit of coconut flour and
I've
some
never made
sweetener.
pumpkin
Delicious. Really, really
I mean,
good.
yes, I've made pumpkin. I've never made
Pumpkin cookies.
pumpkin cookies the way you're discussing.
Have you ever made pumpkin pancakes where it's literally a pancake and the ingredients are bananas, pumpkin, and eggs?
Well, no, I
That's
can't.
it.
And you know why? Because I'm allergic to bananas.
Banana? No kidding.
Yeah, see?
Allergen baking.
So I
here.
couldn't do
I'm
that.
Glad that we
So that's
didn't
why I
include
didn't-
a banana in here.
Well, right. We would have to get someone else to taste it. At the
Yeah,
end, so I didn't go
right.
into anaphylactic shock or something.
So if you're not allergic to nuts or adverse to them for some reason, you can put pecans in here. You can put walnuts in here.
Would you just make flour the same way? Either way? Like, I don't think it matters what kind of nut you make a flour out of.
No, but I'm saying
Maybe
you
I
can put
wonder if
them in
macadamia
whole
would be
too.
hard because they're very oily.
I would love to try something with cashew flour or macadamia nut.
Yeah, I know I can
That'd be great.
buy cashew flour. I just have never actually tried to make it. I don't know if the extra oil would be
I
more
have it at
difficult.
home. I haven't used it yet though.
No, you're afraid.
So do you have like a
You don't wanna screw it
little
up, right?
scooper here?
We do. Look at that.
Okay.
Purple scooper.
All right. So scoop them out.
You press them down?
No, because typically they do spread out a little bit on their own.
Yeah, you
so,
keep pressing them down.
well, I don't really think of that as pressing too much though.
Oh, no?
If you take a spatula and
Let me scoop
flatten.
the other two.
Yeah, you do. All right, we'll see how differently they turn out.
They'll turn out exactly the same, I'm sure, because it's going
Probably.
to spread. See, because I get paid by the hour, so if I did this, they'd probably fire me. But I think it's great.
Okay, we're good
So
with those?
why don't we go ahead and put these in the oven
Yes.
and see what's
Shall I
gonna-
take them?
Are you, look, it's your show. Should I open the door for you?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay,
That was very
excellent.
gentlemanly of you.
And just stick those in, and then we'll come back to those in
Okay.
what, like 10, 15 minutes?
Yes, yeah. It's I would check on them at about 8, just see how they're doing. But I think a good,
What do we have,
solid
400
time.
degrees?
Yeah. So.
I was joking. I wanted to see if you'd panic. No, I think it's like 350. I bake everything pretty much the same.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me about that.
You're like, tell me about that.
No, because figuring out your baking temperature and then the time associated with that is one of the challenges of baking that I do not appreciate. So
Oh, no?
if you just decide that you're going to bake everything at 350,
Well, 'cause
how do you?
A lot of times in bakeries, especially like in the bakery down the street, we have a rotating deck oven.
Yeah,
So the oven is like the size of this room.
yeah, and you're not going to
they
change the
rotate
temperature.
inside of it, so you can fit 20 sheet pans in there. You're not going to change the temperature
Right,
for you've
right.
got 7 different things in there, right?
Yeah. So then, how do you adjust baking time? Do you just
bake it
stick
longer.
a
Yeah,
toothpick in
you
it each
bake.
time?
As I always say to people, which they get annoyed at me, especially people that are just starting out here. You're like, when do I know it's done? I said, when it's done. Like,
Yeah.
how long do I bake it? Until it's done. That's the answer till it's done.
Right.
Like if it doesn't look done, put it back in.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. You'll figure it out as you go, and then
Yeah.
you eventually get this like magical sixth sense
Right.
where you're doing something completely different, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, and you run to the thing, and it's
I
perfect.
forgot the cookies.
Yeah, you think that you're like really late, but it's perfect.
Right.
So
Good.
it comes after 20
I
years
like
or
that
so.
with roasting vegetables because you really can't roast a vegetable wrong. Just leave it in there. Just
No,
put it in
you
there
can
and
over
let it
roast
go.
a vegetable
well,
for
if
sure.
you leave it for 6 hours, but otherwise,
It's
take
like
a spaghetti
serious mush.
squash and put it upside down in a baking pan with a little bit of water. Just let it go, and then you make a nice bolognese on top of it. More paleo cooking.
We'll have to get to that another day. So we'll be getting the cookies out in a few minutes, okay?
Yes.
Because I think they're almost ready. The cookies are almost done,
Yes.
but you don't want to eat them directly out of the oven. So let me pull those out first
Okay.
and see what were some other things some other allergies you would like, or that you would have baked with.
So
Let's just say.
I wanted
That look
to
good?
mention, those look terrific.
Oh, excellent.
Absolutely delicious. We wanted to talk a little bit about cooking without eggs.
Oh, okay.
There are egg allergies.
I know. I actually make some vegan cookies here that I don't use eggs with.
That's good. Terrific. I come from a family where my father and my sister are both allergic to eggs, like deathly allergic to eggs. So you
That's
can't
bad.
say, yeah, it's very bad. EpiPen kind of bad.
Wow.
So you can't say, oh, we'll just leave out the yolk, or oh, if you just get a little bit
No.
of the white. No egg at all.
No egg at all.
So you can still use a similar kind of binder if you make a flax egg. So you take flax seeds, grind them up. Yep. Use 1 tablespoon of that to 3 tablespoons of water.
I've heard that before. I've never
Mix it
actually
up.
used flax
Yeah.
as a binder.
Yep.
I've used other things. Actually, bananas are binders too. If you put some
Exactly.
banana in there, it'll
Yeah.
do the same thing.
Right. And
Baking
again-
is tricky with when you cut eggs out of
Yes.
baking. Like you need, the eggs are designed to set. They
Mm-hmm.
coagulate at about 160, 165, somewhere there. And they set the cookie and hold it in place.
Right.
So if you don't have something else that does that, a lot of people use tofu.
Yes.
Or they'll use soy milk, and that'll do the same thing. The proteins
Right.
in that will set up
Right.
and do
Yeah.
that. So
So we talked a little bit before about nutritional density or nutritional value in baking. Keeping in mind that if you're not
It's still
using
a cookie.
eggs, yeah, it is.
I mean, like it's
Right.
not like
Right.
we're eating. I don't know, some.
I know you're definitely not having
Greens or
a
something,
mixed
it's a cookie.
salad here. But if you're using tofu and you have any thyroid issues, you might not want to eat tofu or soy.
Go ahead.
But you can. But bananas have terrific nutritional content, potassium in particular. Flax as well is good in omegas. And so, these are really.
You don't spend all your time worried about nutrition to the point where you don't enjoy food, do you?
No, but I do
Oh,
think,
good.
I enjoy food so much. How can I make it so that I feel like there's a lot of nutrition
You
in
feel
it?
better afterwards.
Yeah,
And you don't
I
get
don't have
that.
to put spinach in everything, but
I like
you
spinach,
can still,
though.
I do too, but you don't have to put it in everything.
Why'd you break it off? You can't just bite a cookie?
When
It
you
was
wear-
just a question.
If you start wearing lipstick, you will understand.
If I start wearing lipstick, that will be funny. Let's try this out.
Cheers to my grain-free chocolate chip cookies. Mmm.
Wow, that's way better than I thought it was going to be. No offense. You can't even tell there's no flour in it.
No, you really can't.
It has a great texture.
It does have a really good texture. It actually, on first bite, kind of reminds me of a famous name brand cookie that you get in a yellow package and slice.
No, it doesn't.
A little bit. Maybe
Not
I've just
even a
been
little bit.
having too many of these.
Yeah,
for
you
too long.
haven't eaten those in a long time because they're not grass-fed.
But really,
cookies.
the consistency is very nice, soft.
No, these are
and
delicious.
chewy.
They're not. You can't dip them in milk, really. I mean, they would fall apart. They'd have to be
probably would fall
grass-fed milk
apart.
for sure. Hey, well, I'd like to thank you, Stephanie Ives, for joining me
Thank
and
you.
bringing your delicious cookies. Thanks.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us here on Baker Dave Presents. And a special thanks to Stephanie Ives for bringing her delicious, surprisingly delicious, grain-free chocolate chip cookies. Join us again next time on Baker Dave Presents. And remember, every recipe has a story.